Good morning. Today is the 14th day of Tishrei, Erev Sukkot, the evening of Sukkot. Today we start Sukkot in the evening. We start with the mitzvah of sitting in the sukkah, and then we are in the sukkah for the next 7 days. And apart from tomorrow, each one of these 7 days we will also take the 4 species that we've been talking about. And it is customary on every evening of Sukkot, starting with this evening, to also commemorate what was called the Simchat Beit HaShoeva, the joy of the water libation, of the drawing of the water for the water libation. And we explained a little bit about what this was about. I want to explain something very basic that ties Simchat Beit HaShoeva back to Yom Kippur. Usually the way that Simchat Beit HaShoeva is done today is that people get together, whether it's in a shul or somewhere else, with music. Today, obviously, there won't be any live music, but people can make a lot of music with their mouths. And they sing and dance. And the sages tell us that Jonah, the prophet whose book we read on the afternoon of Yom Kippur, received his prophecy during this type of celebration, the celebration of the water libation. He went to the temple and he prophesied. And many people received prophecy from this celebration. Jonah was in the time of the first temple. In the time of the second temple, it was very common for people to receive what was known as Holy Spirit, Ruach HaKodesh. And what Ruach HaKodesh is, in general, is they saw with some clarity what they needed to do with their lives. They had direction, something that many of us are missing today. Because of this, the Kabbalistic literature is full of an analysis of exactly what was going on during the water libation. Why was this a source for receiving the Holy Spirit in the time of the Second Temple? And if you receive wonders, which I hope all of you do, this is this week's. So we have a large article about it. The main article is about receiving the Holy Spirit during Simchat Beit HaShoeva. So I want to first of all recommend and encourage everyone to go and participate in one of these celebrations wherever you are. I'm sure you can find one. What is it about, and in the article we didn't really talk about this, but what is it about this celebration that allows people to receive the Holy Spirit? There's a number of answers that are given. I'm going to discuss one that is considerably discussed in Chassidus, in the Chassidic teachings. And this is the idea of unity. That unity between people opens up the well springs of knowledge and wisdom that flow from above to below. And why is that? If you remember, we have a very interesting affair with Jacob running to Haran, fleeing from his brother Esau. And he comes to Haran, or outside of Haran, and he meets a group of shepherds sitting around a well. And he asks them, why are you sitting around and not drawing water from the well in order to give your flocks water and then keep shepherding? The day is great still, he says. There's still many hours in the day left. Why sit around and do nothing? They tell him there's a big stone on the well, and the only way we can move the stone is if we all push together. So we're waiting for the other shepherds to gather, for us to have enough strength together to move this stone that is blocking the well. The same idea is in life, that in order to uncover the wellspring of knowledge, of Holy Spirit is specifically related to the sphere of Bina, of understanding, but that we covered in the article. If you want, you can read it there. But to be able to uncover the well springs that come from above, a person has to have unity. Just like the shepherds in Haran, they have to work in unison, they have to work together. Now, when we talk about working together, so humanity has achieved a great deal by being able to work together. In fact, one would argue that the real reason that we know so much today and that we have so much technology is because we've learned how to cooperate in terms of sharing knowledge, in terms of checking each other's knowledge, and so on. But when it comes to divine wisdom, it's not just about sharing. You could share, that's very good, it can be very useful. But the real idea of unity is peace between people. Because when it comes to divine knowledge, it's not exactly the same thing as technology. It's not like we're looking to figure out a better way to run our engines, and different people can have different ideas. And the ideas will complement one another, and eventually we'll find the best way. Rather, when it comes to divine knowledge is related to the heart. And our hearts are different in the same way that our opinions are different, our faces are different, the way we perceive the world is different. And so for each one of us to share the knowledge is a real challenge, because a lot of people don't want to hear our point of view about things. And finding a way to cooperate is very difficult. So even though we talked about the idea of the aravot, of the willow branches, representing peace through communication, through speaking, we said that the leaves of the willow resemble mouths. It's a very difficult thing to do. What is more practical is to actually dance together. And this is an amazing concept. That if we can make, first of all, you have to look at how, there's various types of dance in the world. In the southern part of the United States and in parts of England, they have something called square dancing. You have ballroom dancing. You have artistic dancing. But Jewish dancing is very specific. It's always dancing in a circle, holding hands together. And there's a reason for it. Because this circle, this whole idea of being in a circle and holding hands, is actually a verse from the Bible that the sages interpreted. That in the future, God will take all the righteous and he will put them in a circle around him. And they will spin around him and holding hands and point at him and say, "This is our God who we've been waiting for." What exactly are they pointing at? They're pointing at the center of the circle. They're pointing at the center of the circle from which all the points on the circle emerge. The idea that I can 100% share my mind with someone else is very difficult. It's very difficult to achieve that. The very fact that I can dance with different people who think differently than me, have different lifestyles maybe, but in the end, we all serve the same God, and we're all equal in the eyes of one God. That is the ultimate type of unity, of being able to do what the Baal Shem Tov called carry opposites, to be able to sustain opposites, to be able to sustain contradictions, because people contradict one another. But to be able to sustain them by holding hands together and enjoying ourselves together, celebrating together, that is one of the ultimate achievements and manifestations of unity. What this means really is that every person is like representing a certain direction in thought and in beliefs and in feelings. And though we can't share those together, by carrying them in us and being able to dance together, we're actually creating unity, even though we haven't shared the actual opinions and the actual feelings, although sometimes we might know what they are. I think one of the greatest things that we have is the akafot on the 8th and 9th day of Sukkot, where in Israel there's a tremendous tradition of really everyone coming together to dance together, regardless of what their opinions are, regardless of what their level of observance is, and so on. This idea, this basic notion that we can still come together is exactly like being able to push the stone, the great stone, off the wellspring. And when the stone is removed from the wellspring, something we can only do together, then the waters come gushing out. And the waters that come out, those are the waters, those waters symbolize the depth of understanding that you gain from this celebration, and it gives you clarity on what you need to do in life. So everyone have a wonderful Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rabbi.
There was also a question.